I'm John Risby. I'm a board-certified patent attorney, and I know what it feels like to see somebody else beat you by bringing your idea to market first. Picture this. You're ready to get your new idea off the ground. Perhaps you spend time learning all you can about product development, or instead you hire the best designers you can find, or you get a prototype shop to help you. You get your team together, you have experienced gurus from the top startups. You spend months or years perfecting the prototype you've dreamed of building. The invention works, the bugs are squashed, and you're ready to launch your well-functioning, beautiful product that has cost you a pretty penny. And then you visit with a patent attorney and you find out your idea is already patented. Ouch! You've basically spent years and a huge chunk of change reinventing the wheel. Unfortunately, this happens far too often with entrepreneurs and startups. And the sad thing is that all of this could have been avoided. I know the pain of having somebody launch an idea that you had first. Let me take you back in time to when I was 12 years old. Now at 12, I was incredibly cool and stylish. And here's proof. And I was on a mission. I took apart a Rubik's Cube with a screwdriver, and I destroyed it. My dream and sole ambition in life was to create a round Rubik's Cube. Yes, you can tell the nerds early. And one day, my mom took me to KB Toys in the mall. I went, as I always did, to the aisle where they had puzzles and games, like the Rubik's Cube. And what I saw there on the shelf crushed me. Somebody had already made a round Rubik's Cube. And they came up with a better name than round Rubik's Cube. They called it the Impossible. And in my 12-year-old mind, they had stolen my idea. And I fought hard not to cry in front of my mom. And I succeeded. Except nobody knows you like your mom. She saw me fighting back tears. And she had seen the sketchbooks under my bed with page after page of drawings of my round Rubik's Cube. And as she saw me fighting back tears, I looked up at her, but I didn't cry. My mom started crying. When we're kids, we actually believe achieving our dreams is possible. But something happens to us as we become adults. We let people convince us that our dreams are just fantasies, and we have to fit this perfect mold to pursue them. Oprah Winfrey was told that she was too ugly for television and that she should stick to the radio. Wayne Gretzky was told he's too small and slow to ever make it in the NHL. Walt Disney was fired by a newspaper reporter for not having enough imagination. How many of your dreams have you given up on because somebody told you that you didn't fit the right mold? My story is very common, but I've got great news for inventors of all ages and idea types. This is the golden age for inventors. When I became a patent attorney over 20 years ago, it was a different scene for inventors. I had to explain what it was I did to my family, friends, even strangers. There were no shows like Shark Tank. A Shark Tank was an aquarium with fish in it. The internet was in its infancy. There was no Amazon, no eBay, no Kickstarter, or any other crowdfunding sites. It was much harder for an individual inventor to bring an idea to market. Hoping for a license from a big manufacturer was the only real hope. It was hard to get past the gatekeepers and have your idea considered. Companies didn't solicit outside ideas with a new products page the way they're doing today. This is truly the golden age of inventors. You're no longer dependent today on your product or idea being chosen by a manufacturer, and you no longer have to rely on licensing. There are avenues available today, like eBay and Amazon stores, where an inventor can begin offering their product directly without relying on some large company banking on the success of their idea. Okay, so if we are in the golden age of inventing, what is the problem? Well, I'll tell you, it is what it's not. It's not lack of knowledge of the patent process. So that is not what I'm going to talk about today. As an adjunct professor of patent law, I'm often asked by inventors groups to talk about the patent process. A lot of inventors believe that it's their lack of knowledge of the patent process that's holding them back from success. But that's not it. That's not what I'm going to talk about. Over the past 20 years as a patent attorney, practicing with inventors of all sizes, startups to corporations, I guess you can say there are 3 secrets that I've found. First, do not try to create a working model or prototype as the first thing you do, because there's a good chance you're wasting time, money, and resources. Second, inventors come in all colors, backgrounds, ages, financial ability, and experience. So thinking you have to fit this perfect mold in order to bring an idea to market is simply not true. Third, looking for that perfect time to launch your idea is possibly the biggest false belief that I encounter every day while speaking with inventors. Let me go through each one in more detail. Secret number 1, trying to make a working model or perfecting your prototype. A lot of inventors mistakenly believe that they have to have a physical product or a working model before they can protect an idea. Nothing can be further from the truth. The Wright brothers applied for a patent on the airplane a full 9 months before their first flight. That took the pressure off of flying first because they had legal ownership of the idea already secure. Own the idea first, and you can perfect it later. Actually, what a lot of inventors don't realize is that if you own the idea, you don't have to do the hard work of research and development, prototyping, production, marketing, sales, distribution. You simply rent the idea to a manufacturer, and they'll pay you royalty payments. Thousands and thousands of companies like Black & Decker, Kraft Foods, Ford, and Samsung have embraced the open innovation movement and are looking for ideas from the outside. Years ago, I helped an inventor with an idea for an improved lawnmower blade. that had vertical blades in addition to horizontal blades, so that the mower housing would chop up the grass into tiny parts. This inventor came to my office with this beautiful prototype that he spent $7,000 on. My heart sank when we did our research and determined that somebody had filed a patent on the idea first. The inventor was devastated. But nobody's selling or making my product, he said. And that brings me to a big problem in patent law, the patent troll. People are filing patents on ideas in hopes that somebody else will launch the product and then they sue for infringement and make money. Just because you don't see your idea on the market doesn't mean that you're first. I've had other inventors with software ideas come to me, like say for an app for a smartphone. But they've come to me after they've hired programmers, developers, and sometimes spent tens of thousands of dollars before they see me. At that point, we do our patent search, and we might find out that the idea is already patented. And if we do, all of that money has been wasted. And I can't get the inventor rights to the idea. Sometimes they'll say, but I've had the idea for 2 years, 3 years. I've had it first. I had the idea way before this other guy. It doesn't matter, unfortunately, under the new patent law, who had the idea first. In 2013, the US Patent Office switched from a first-to-invent system to a first-to-file system. And today, whoever files the patent first wins. So even if you can prove you invented the idea first, it doesn't matter if somebody else gets it into the patent office first. Speed is everything. What if you could find out if your idea was patentable subject matter and see if it was worth proceeding with before you spent hours and hours of time perfecting it, or before you threw money away on prototypes or programmers or models? Why waste all of that time and money only to find out you're reinventing the wheel? That brings me to secret number 2, believing you have to fit the perfect mold in order to find success as an inventor. This brings me to another major reason why inventors fail to bring their ideas to market. They let others convince them that they're not good enough, or they convince themselves that they are outsiders to an industry and that they have no chance at launching a new idea. Listen, I know what it's like not to fit this perfect mold. You see, when I was in law school, I wanted to be a patent attorney, but not just a patent attorney. I wanted to work at the New York City law firm of Fish and Neve. Now, if you don't know Fish and Neve, they're the law firm that represented Thomas Edison with the invention of the light bulb. They represented Alexander Graham Bell with the telephone. They represented Henry Ford and the Wright brothers with the invention of the airplane. Fish and Neve is to patents what Muhammad Ali is to boxing, the greatest of all time. But I didn't fit this perfect mold for joining Fish and Neve, and I was reminded of this by the placement director at the University of Miami, who told me not to bother applying to Fish and Neve because I didn't stand a chance. They're the #1 patent law firm in the world, and they only hire from Harvard and Yale, and they only hire students that have done summer internships. A summer internship, I put myself through law school at night by working full-time during the day as an engineer. Now, although I didn't have the luxury of a summer internship, I finished at the very top of my class. I aced the patent bar exam, and I ignored that placement director's advice and excitedly sent in my application anyway. You probably think this is going to end well. It doesn't. I got back this rejection letter, and it stung hard. And the next day at work, during my lunch break, I drove to find a phone, a payphone. You younger guys can Google payphone if you don't know what it is. And I mustered up the courage to call Miss Rogan, the person that wrote this letter. And I reminded her that her law firm's claim to fame is the representation of the Wright brothers, 2 bicycle mechanics who invented the airplane. They didn't fit this perfect mold. They were from Dayton, Ohio, neither one of whom had even gone to college. Only one of the brothers had finished high school. The world misjudged them and told them that their dream of human flight was just a fantasy. Mr. Risby, Ms. Rogan interrupted me, hiring committee decisions are final, and I don't understand what your point is. My point, and the hair stood up in the back of my neck, is that your hiring committee made a mistake. They need to look at my application again because they misjudged me. Click. I got off the phone. I'm not sure if my call changed anything, but I sure as hell felt better. 5 days later, I got another letter in the mail. I thought I was being sued. I'm a lawyer after all. Instead, I was being asked by my dream law firm to come on board and join them as an attorney. So ignore the naysayers that tell you that you have to fit some perfect mold or you're not going to be successful. Nothing could be further from the truth. Take Sarah Blakely, for example. She was frustrated that she couldn't find pantyhose that didn't have seamed toes and that didn't roll up on her leg after she cut them. She had no experience with clothing development or manufacturing. She failed her law school admissions test and sold fax machines door to door. But she didn't let the fact that she was an outsider to the clothing industry stop her from pursuing her idea. Today, her product line, Spanx, is valued at over $1 billion. Sarah became the world's youngest female billionaire and made Time magazine's list of the top 100 most influential people in the world, all because she improved pantyhose. Let me tell you about a client of mine, Alex Gomez, that ignored the naysayers and successfully brought his idea to market and sold it for $100 million. Now, Alex noticed that surgical camera lenses, they fogged up in the operating room during use. The current solution was for doctors to dip the camera in a warm bucket of water and then put it back inside the patient. Alex thought this was primitive and it could lead to infections. He thought there was a better way, and he created a heated lens defogger for surgical cameras. But when he told others about his idea, "You're nuts," they said. "You're crazy." He had dropped out of medical school to pursue this invention, and he was labeled a dropout and ridiculed for never having done a residency. He went home. He created this homemade prototype, and he brought it to my office. And he put it on the corner of his desk, and he pointed to it. "John," he said, "I don't care what they say about my idea. It works. I might not be a doctor, but this is going to save lives. This invention is going to change the way surgical camera lenses are cleaned in the operating room. You have to fight for my patent. You have to win." 2 years after I filed his patent, Alex sold his company for $100 million. The lens defogger that he invented has been used today in over 1 million surgeries, and it saves lives every day. Alex ignored those that told him he wasn't the right person to bring his idea to market and that he didn't fit this perfect mold. So ignore those naysayers that tell you you have to fit some perfect mold or you're not going to be successful. This brings me to my third secret. There is no perfect time to launch your idea. The final obstacle that I keep seeing with inventors and entrepreneurs that stops them from achieving success is fear. But they don't call it fear. They don't recognize it as fear. They see it as waiting for the right time to launch their idea. I've had inventors come to my office after seeing their idea on the market, asking me if there's something I can do. They often come in with amazing evidence that they had invented first. Sometimes they'll have receipts for payments of materials. Sometimes they'll have digital pictures, emails. And it's heartbreaking for me because if they didn't file the patent first, they have zero rights to the idea, and there's nothing I can do. The reason for them not filing relates to timing. I was going through a divorce at the time, or I was still in college, or I was going to file as soon as my wedding was behind me, or I wanted to finish taking the bar exam first, or the medical boards, or some other academic pursuit, or I wanted to finish my prototype. Waiting for the perfect time can cost an inventor rights to their idea. History is full of inventors that lost rights to their invention because of delaying the filing of a patent, only because in their mind the idea came to them at the wrong time in their life. One of the best known examples of this is illustrated by inventor Alexander Graham Bell and the invention of the telephone. Now, Alexander Graham Bell filed his application just a few hours before rival Elisha Gray, and despite a legal battle that went on for years, the courts awarded the patent to Bell, even though Elisha Gray's design was better. Timing is everything. When it comes to patents, there is no consolation prize for filing an application second. Timing is everything. While you're waiting on that perfect time to file your patent, competitors might rush ahead and submit a patent application on an invention that's just good enough. The thing is that an idea comes when an idea comes. The universe is not going to bring ideas to you when it is convenient to you. The important thing is when you get that idea, secure it immediately with a patent. You can always work on developing the details later and the prototype later. If you have an idea that you feel is patentable, why not find out now if it is patentable? I know what you're thinking. How is this done, and how much is this going to cost? I offer an initial patenting session that is completely confidential, and it's free. All of our communications during this initial patenting session and beyond are protected by the attorney-client privilege and completely confidential. The initial patenting session is typically by phone, and in either case, you'll receive a signed and executed confidentiality and non-disclosure agreement from me documenting attorney-client privilege. And then we'll have 15 questions during the initial consultation, either by telephone or in some cases in person. Questions like, are you far enough along in your idea's development to apply for a patent? Should you apply now and perfect the invention later? What if you're still working on improvements to the invention? What if you need to disclose your invention to somebody in order to finish the prototype or test the concept? The initial patenting session only takes about 5 minutes if your idea cannot be patented. If I do find patentable subject matter, however, the initial patenting session can take about 15 or 20 minutes at the most. Why not invest 15 to 20 minutes to find out now if your idea has wings? I do not charge for the initial patenting session, and I ask only that you take the time to review and complete the invention disclosure form prior to the meeting. I've seen too many inventors and entrepreneurs lose important rights at the early stages of their idea's development. This is by far the most vulnerable stage because they fail to move fast enough with patent protection. You do not want to see your idea turn into a successful business or concept without making a cent from it. That simple idea that you have could be the thing that creates your legacy and changes the world. Jay Sorensen invented and patented a simple cardboard sleeve that goes around a cup of coffee. This idea has generated $10 million a year for the last 20 years. Did you ever want to leave a note somewhere and not have a piece of tape handy? The patented Post-it note earns over $1 billion a year in revenue. Or how about having a tiny bit of ketchup in the bottle and you have to hit the bottle to get the ketchup out? What if the bottle was stored upside down so that it didn't leak? Inventor Paul Brown invented patented, and sold his idea for $13 million. I'm John Risby, the patent professor, and I look forward to discussing your potentially million-dollar idea. Somewhere on this page, you'll see case studies from successful clients of mine that I obtained patents for. Some of them have changed entire industries with their idea, and they all started with little more than the initial concept.